I've been driving trucks long enough to know the open road can be an eerie place. There's a kind of loneliness that creeps in when the sun goes down and the highway stretches out in front of you, empty and endless. I've seen strange things in my time on the road, figures standing by the roadside, only to vanish when you pass by, headlights appearing in your rearview mirror, then disappearing without a trace. But nothing compares to what happened on a delivery run a couple of years ago. I still can't explain it, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. I had a run scheduled from Montana down to Colorado. It was a long-haul trip, but I was used to those. I'd made similar runs plenty of times before, and besides, I liked the solitude. There's something peaceful about driving through the night with nothing but your thoughts and the hum of the engine to keep you company. At least, that's how I felt before this trip. The night started out normal enough. I picked up my load, a shipment of construction materials, and hit the road just before sunset. The first few hours were uneventful. The highway was mostly empty, save for the occasional car or truck passing by in the other lane. As the sky darkened and the stars started to come out, I settled into the rhythm of the drive. Around midnight, I found myself on a particularly lonely stretch of highway, the kind where there aren't any rest stops or gas stations for miles, just miles of road cutting through the wilderness. It was then that I noticed something strange. Up ahead, maybe a mile or two in the distance, I could see a pair of headlights. That wasn't unusual in itself, but what struck me as odd was the way they were moving. Instead of coming toward me or staying at a consistent speed, the lights seemed to flicker, almost like they were swaying from side to side. At first, I thought it was just my tired eyes playing tricks on me. I blinked a few times, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. The lights were still there, but now they seemed closer, and they were moving erratically, like whoever was driving couldn't keep the vehicle straight on the road. I figured it was probably some drunk driver, maybe someone having car trouble, so I slowed down as I approached. As I got closer, I realized the lights weren't from a car at all. They were coming from something much bigger. At first, I thought it was another semi-truck, but there was something off about it. The lights were too high, and they didn't seem to be attached to anything. There was no outline of a truck, no visible cab or trailer, just two floating orbs of light swaying side to side in the darkness. I slowed down even more, my pulse quickening. Something about this didn't feel right. The road was completely straight, no turns or bends, so there was no reason for the lights to be moving like that. As I approached, the lights stopped swaying and seemed to hover in place, as if waiting for me. I should have stopped right there. Every instinct in my body was telling me to turn around, to get the hell out of there. But I kept driving, too curious or too stupid to turn back. When I got within about 100 yards, the lights blinked out, just vanished like someone had flipped a switch. My heart was pounding now. I scanned the road ahead, but there was nothing. Just darkness and the long stretch of highway ahead. I thought maybe the driver had pulled off the road or turned their lights off, but there was nowhere to pull off. The road was lined with dense forest on either side, and there hadn't been any turnoffs for miles. I drove slowly for another minute or so, my eyes darting back and forth, trying to catch any sign of movement. That's when I saw it, something on the side of the road, just at the edge of my headlights. At first, it looked like a person standing there watching me, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't a person at all. It was tall, much taller than any human, with long, spindly limbs and a body that seemed to be made of shadows. Its skin, if you could call it that, was dark, almost black, and its eyes were glowing a deep, unnatural red. It just stood there, completely still, as I drove past. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it. It was like my brain couldn't fully process what I was seeing. As I passed, I felt a chill run down my spine, like the temperature inside the cab had dropped 10 degrees. I glanced in my rearview mirror, hoping, praying that whatever it was hadn't moved. But it had. It was following me, running along the side of the road, its long limbs carrying it at an unnatural speed. I slammed my foot on the gas, the engine roaring as I tried to put as much distance between me and that thing as possible. But no matter how fast I went, it stayed right there, just at the edge of my taillights, its glowing red eyes locked on my truck. My hands were shaking, white-knuckling the steering wheel as I floored it down the highway. I didn't care about speed limits or anything else at that point. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. I kept checking the mirrors, hoping to see the thing fall behind, but it didn't. It stayed with me for miles, running faster than anything should be able to. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the thing slowed down. I watched in the mirror as it came to a stop on the side of the road, still staring at me with those glowing red eyes until it was swallowed up by the darkness. I didn't stop driving until I reached a gas station about an hour later. When I pulled in, my hands were shaking so badly, I could barely turn the key to cut the engine. I sat there in the cab for a few minutes, trying to calm down, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't explain it. That thing, whatever it was, wasn't human. It couldn't have been. I got out of the truck and went inside the gas station, hoping the lights and the presence of other people would help me feel normal again. There were a couple of other truckers inside, sitting at the small diner counter, talking and laughing. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat down at a table, still trying to steady my nerves. One of the truckers must have noticed the look on my face because he came over and asked if I was okay. I hesitated for a second, then told him about what I'd seen. I half expected him to laugh it off, to tell me I was just tired or imagining things, but he didn't. Instead, his face went pale, and he sat down across from me, lowering his voice. "You saw it too, didn't you?" he said. I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you mean, it?" He glanced around the diner, making sure no one else was listening. "The thing with the red eyes. It follows truckers sometimes while out on those back roads. I've heard stories, but I never thought I'd meet someone who actually saw it." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded, too stunned to speak. "I don't know what it is," the trucker continued, "but you're lucky. Some people say it doesn't stop following you. They say once it picks up your scent, it sticks with you, no matter where you go." I didn't stay at the diner long after that. I finished my coffee, thanked the trucker, and headed back to my rig. The rest of the trip was uneventful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I checked my mirrors, I half expected to see those glowing red eyes staring back at me. I've driven that route a few times since then, but I've never seen the thing again. Still, I avoid that stretch of road when I can, and when I can't, I make sure to keep my eyes on the road and not look too closely at what might be lurking in the shadows.
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.